You're listening to The Watchers, a show where two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch movies and TV about the world's worst teachers.
Oh my God.
Do we have any good teachers in any of the shows we've watched so far?
No, not really. I think might.
I was saying that was rhetorical at first, but now I'm thinking about it and
we don't.
We don't.
No, these are all bad teachers. Some of them are aggressively bad. Like there are some teachers.
Some of them are having sex with their students.
Exactly.
In some of the shows we've watched.
Exactly. So there's levels to this.
And then there are some teachers who, when you have a troubled student who eventually comes to class, you immediately mock them.
Yeah. You make fun of them.
Imagine?
I know.
Fire her. I mean, I could imagine, because I had a teacher when I was in second grade dump my ADHD desk out in the middle of the floor in the middle of the classroom and make me clean it up while she continued teaching.
My God.
So I do.
Yeah, I had a teacher in 8th grade who used to throw pencils at us.
Yeah. So you...
and yell really loudly and like bang on his desk. Okay, so yeah.
Whenever I'm listening to, which podcast is it that asks, it doesn't matter. And now I'm not sure if it's one I work on or one I listen to, where they ask like, who was the first teacher who really saw you? And like, I don't mean this is a sad thing for me. I think most students would answer, is my guess. Maybe not. I don't know. But maybe we're learning more about me than we need to right now. But like, I don't think I have an answer to that until I got to fucking undergrad.
I have one in high school, and it was my photography teacher. No surprise.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's such a good answer, though.
Mrs. Ross.
Yeah.
Not Mrs., actually. Miss Ross. She was a single woman with short hair who lived in the city, I believe, and commuted to suburban New Jersey to teach us. Yeah. She's very cool.
That makes sense.
She follows me on Facebook now.
And brag.
And Instagram.
Big brag.
Yeah. But yeah, most of the teachers in our shows are about as bad as most of the teachers that we had growing up, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, the making fun of him and also the using some random student in your class as the messenger to be like, show up or you're going to get expelled.
It's everything about it is bad.
Do they not have policies and procedures in this high school? Like
probably not.
God. So we watched God.
Who are you?
How have we been doing this for over a year and I'm still like, how do we start? I'm Jodie.
I'm Andrea. We've been doing this for way more than a year.
That's true. I don't even know what episode we're on, but we watched My So-Called Life. And we watched the Halloween episode, obviously, because it's October. Only one season of this show, unfortunately, as we've talked about. And we watched it.
This is episode 79 of The Watchers.
Oh, my God. Well, it's season 1, episode 9 of My So-Called Life. Mm-hmm. And we have sort of a classic Halloween tale here. We have a very, almost a Stephen King-esque, except without the violence, like ghost story.
Yeah.
Of like the past and the present kind of meeting. So I'm not sure how we want to approach this, but before we actually get into it, I thought we didn't do this last week and I regretted it. I kind of want to take a few minutes to talk about Halloween and Halloween costumes because there's such an emphasis in this episode specifically on like that feeling when you're in high school and half the school comes in costume and half doesn't.
That was the exact... I like clicked into this episode so hard when she's like, people are wearing costumes.
Yes.
I should have worn a costume.
Yeah.
And it's like, because you don't know, because you're either going to show up... There are two terrifying options, which is you show up dressed up and nobody else is, or you show up not dressed up and everybody else is.
Exactly. And it seems like in Angela's high school, it's about half and half. I think a little bit more dressed up than not, but pretty evenly split. But her friends are dressed up.
Right.
Rayanne
really
is a wonderfully flamboyant vampire with the swishy cape and the voice and all of it. I love Rayanne in this episode.
Yeah, she's really great. The actor, I don't remember being like particularly impressed by her in the pilot, but I thought she was great in this episode. She feels so real.
She gets that first episode doesn't do her justice. There's an episode where her and Angela's friendship has fallen apart because of Jordan, of course, because you know. But I'm
obsessed with Jordan. I know he's stupid and he can't read, but it's just
But so just to put a pin in the Rayanne thing, there's an episode later on where their friendship has kind of fallen apart because of Jordan, of course. And they're both in the school play, which of course is Our Town. And Rayanne is playing Emily. And we get to see the actress that plays Rayanne acting in a high school play as Emily, giving the really dramatic speech at the end, where she's saying goodbye to things. And it's sort of a layer of, there's a layer of meaning on top of it because of her friendship with Angela falling apart. Aww. And the actress that plays Rayanne, that scene, it's like you can find it clipped, just that scene on YouTube, because she's so good in it. You can see she's both an actress playing, a role as Emily that she could easily play because she's already an actress, but she's also a teenage girl channeling her own hurt into this part. There's
a lot there.
It's an amazing scene.
You could really mess that up.
Yeah, and she did not. It's an amazing scene. It's like really heartbreaking. It's so much about their friendship and how it's broken down. So she's amazing. But yeah, Jordan, we get to see more of his personality ? In this episode. More classic Jordan lines.
I know we talked
more
about
leaning.
this.
He's so good at leaning.
He is really good at leaning. Yeah. I know we've already talked about this to a degree, but now that we've watched, especially you have watched a lot of Dawson's Creek, it's so funny that like these teens treat with the same level of emotion very different kinds of conversations. And it's like, I think the kids on My So-Called Life think they are talking with the same level of like self-awareness and hyperverbalism as the kids on the creek. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're really just saying stuff like, what if I miss something cool?
Yes.
And then the kids on the creek think they sound like actual teenagers talk.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they think they're normal.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it reminded me.
Yeah.
I was thinking of like when, like in Look Who's Talking, where Bruce Willis is talking.
And the answer to that is going to be no. Andrea walks away from the podcast. Oh no. Is there a soundboard thing coming? There we go. Record scratch.
Never seen.
I think I have. It's one of those. I don't know. I think I have.
Wow.
Certainly didn't make an impression on me though.
And it's got such a perfect Jersey connection. It's got two. John Travolta.
Yeah, Englewood.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
So, let's put a pin in Luke Who's Talking. But
do we need to revisit the Molly Ringwald John Candy thing again? Because it explains all of this. No, it does not.
But Look Who's Talking is, oh my God. Bruce Willis, he's a baby.
Yes, exactly.
But it's like, he's talking and he knows what he's saying. He's like, it's Bruce Willis. You know what I mean? The internal monologue is like, so articulate. But the like other people watching are just hearing a baby babble. And that's what I feel like is happening here with when Jordan and Angela, I guess it's Jordan and Ricky in this episode, really, they have the like longest conversation.
Under the bleachers.
Are talking where it sounds like they think they're being like so insightful and they're really, and then you pull back and it's just two kids being like, what if I miss something cool?
Right. Yeah.
That's all. That was a long walk.
I know. But I think there is interesting subtext actually in that scene, but it has nothing to do with the character's like main conversation.
Right.
So before we get into it, we've already started, but I want to actually, do we want to talk about this before or after? Maybe we can talk about our Halloween stuff at the end, since we've already started. Let's just go into it, and I'll bring up the question. No, I did it too. But we'll bring up the Halloween conversation at the end. So I'm in thinking about this episode. I think what we should probably do, there's a couple of different storylines. So instead of going beat by beat, maybe we pull out each individual storyline.
Sure.
Because there's the parents, there's Danielle, the little sister, and Sharon, and their little moment, and then there is the main. Like teen
school
group
story,
story. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think maybe we get the smaller storylines out of the way first. The storyline with the parents is like, put costumes on, get horny. Like,
Okay, so
there's also some role reversal stuff in there about masculinity, and
she loves him in the tights.
Yep.
The thing about the costumes is...
Wait, let's just talk about what's happening real quick.
Okay.
So they have a party to go to. They didn't get costumes. She doesn't want to wear her flapper dress that she's offered to everyone else. Right. So they go to a costume shop where this witchy lady is like, I have exactly what you need. You can't get Power Rangers. It's too late. There's no Power Rangers costumes left.
It's perfect because at the beginning... In this scene, she seems like she's being really dismissive. She's like, you take what you can get.
Yeah.
You get what you get and you don't get upset. You know?
Yeah. But she has these two costumes. She thinks they're going to be perfect for them. It's Rapunzel and a pirate. Mm-hmm. And she gives them the costume. She says, they're going to fit perfectly. I've been doing this a long time. Go home. And so they're getting ready.
He's like kind of an asshole about it because he's like, you, Rapunzel, come on.
I know. He's making fun of her short haircut again, which was a big deal in the beginning of this show.
Right.
But their whole dynamic is like she's a powerful businesswoman and he no longer works for her. He did in the beginning.
That haircut in the pilot?
She cuts her hair. She gets that haircut in the pilot.
I don't remember.
Or maybe right after the pilot, but she gets that haircut in the beginning.
Because there's no way you and I wouldn't have talked about
That's true. Maybe it's
haircut.
episode 2.
Wow, that's everything.
Yeah, she cuts off her hair. I know, because their whole dynamic is that she's a powerful businesswoman and he worked for her. And then I don't remember the exact machinations, but at this point he's not working for her anymore.
Right, yeah, that's like a big part of this.
Yeah, and so in future episodes, I think he's trying to start his own, like, cooking something. Okay. But, so it's very Mitch and...
yeah.
Oh my God, I lost Dawson's mom's name.
Gail,
thank you. It's very Mitch and Gail. But he is emasculated still by this, even though he's pretending not to be.
Right.
You know? And he keeps offering to fire this employee for her. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I kind of want you to, because she's like playing into his, sort of fragile masculinity. And then at the very end, rewind. They get the costumes, they put the costumes on, suddenly they get into these like this passionate role play thing that's very corny. The music is great.
It's so funny.
It's like really well played. It goes instantly into this like melodrama of like cheesy romance. She drops her handkerchief.
But it slowly ramps up. So by the time it actually happens, it's like I forget what's actually playing, but it's like it's not Flight of the Bumblebee, but it's one of those. Like,
yeah, the kids keep interrupting for trick-or-treating, and eventually they skip the party and have this, like, passionate whatever. And then the next day, she goes to return the costumes. But before that, the guy that she's been needing to fire calls the house, and he's feeling all, like, ramped up and masculine. And he's like, do you want me to do it? Let me fire him. Like, give me the phone. And she does it instead. Mm-hmm. And he literally resheathes his sword. When she does that, it's so overt. He's had the pirate sword out. He puts it back in the sheath and like walks away.
And it's so funny because like the lesson here shouldn't be, oh, my wife is still so like powerful, and even though we had this one night, I'm still this emasculated guy. Yeah, it should be like, oh, look, we can like share, and neither one of us needs to be,
Yeah, that is not the lesson
metaphorically
he takes.
on top all the time, like,
right. That is not the lesson he takes from it.
Nope.
So she goes to return the costumes, and she kind of wants to keep them. And the lady at the store is like, "Oh, the bodice get ripped." It's like, can you put the hammer onto the nail any harder?
Right.
He literally ripped her bodice.
Yeah.
And she keeps the handkerchief. Mm-hmm. And the lady is like, "Okay, lady,"
which the lady knows. And then there's a part of this where I think if this were Dawson's Creek, which kind of like lets itself be a little more fanciful sometimes, is like she would leave the place, turn around, and it would be boarded up as if it hadn't been,
that would be great.
Running in 30 years or whatever.
That would be great, actually. I like that. Because then it would bring the supernatural part to the parents as well. Instead, the parents are this like grounded piece while everything else is happening. And then there's just a cute storyline of Danielle, the little sister, who, as the series goes on, gets more time to play around. Which
she's so funny. I like her so much.
So funny. So yeah, Danielle comes into the kitchen and like dressed as Angela with the flannel and the red hair, leans against the fridge, and her mom tells her that Camille's going to send Sharon over to pick up a chafing dish. Sharon being Angela's former best friend, who we'll talk about in a minute. And Danielle says, Mom, Sharon Chersky and I exist in like 2 different worlds, okay? I can't just hand her a dish, okay? I mean, it's not that simple. And then in her own voice, she's like, I'm doing Angela. Pretty good, right? It's so good.
It's so good, but it also... She's so funny, and she's got the haircut, and she, like you said, she's wearing the flannel, or she's got the hair color, the whole thing. It's another example, though, of parents who hate their children because they are horrified at the idea that they might have another little Angela.
Yeah. Her mom says, I thought it was starting again. Like, it's so mean.
My God, that was really scary.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so mean. But then we do see Sharon come over later on. To bring the chafing dish back. And Danielle's about to go trick-or-treating. Sharon is like, I'm going out with my boyfriend. I can't remember who her boyfriend is.
I was going to say, does she have a boyfriend?
I think she does at this point.
Okay.
This is episode 9. I think something has developed there. I can't quite remember.
Okay.
But she skips out and decides to go trick-or-treating with Danielle to like revisit her youth, which is fun. I get that, like, there's that high school moment where you're like, do I still go? I'm the obnoxious teenager that like shows up when parents are already done for the night and don't really want to deal with anyone anymore. And
do you remember the last year? Maybe is this for the end? I don't know. Do you remember the last year you went trick-or-treating on purpose yourself? Because I've gone with like friends who had kids young.
Yeah, I don't. It was definitely no later than like, I don't think I did it all in high school. I think it might have been 8th grade.
I think 8th grade was the last year for me too.
Yeah.
And we were definitely like feeling a little too old. We brought my baby. There were like 8 of us and we had one child with us to like use as an excuse. We brought my baby cousin.
Yeah. That was the latest it could have been because I moved to a new town in high school and I definitely didn't go in high school. But yeah, she wants that fun silliness, right? Yeah. And they have a sweet conversation about how Danielle says she hates Angela and Sharon's like, well, why are you dressing like her then? So it's sweet.
Yeah.
But the main focus of this episode,
it's really good.
The Legend of Nicky Driscoll.
Nicky Catalano.
Nicky Catalano, yes. Exactly.
As you mentioned before, Angela has come not dressed up. Her friends are dressed up, so she needs a costume.
Right.
And so... Oh, who has the clothes already?
Rayanne.
Is it Rayanne?
Yeah, Rayanne. So it's her aunt's clothes, who was the girl who was on the bike with Nicky Driscoll.
Right.
There's like all of these connections that are building.
And so Angela is now, they put her in costume.
Yes.
So she's dressed like the kids from is this the 50s?
63.
63.
So yeah, Rayanne has a costume for her. They're in the bathroom as they always are, right? A little bit before this, we have one thing. We have the classroom scene with the bad teacher. We have Sharon dressed as a cat, supposedly, but everyone thinks she's a rat.
A rat.
Which is a funny running gag. But, there's a great Angela line here, though, before we get to the bathroom. The teacher says, does anyone know Jordan Catalano? And Angela says,
oh my God, Jodie.
Does anybody know Jordan Catalano? She's so funny.
It's perfect.
She says they've had 7 conversations and 1 bad kiss and 1 amazing one. And
so they've kissed twice at this point.
Yeah.
Even though now, as someone who's only seen the pilot in this episode, it does sort of seem like Jordan is only half sure of who she is. But maybe that's because he's so stupid.
Yeah. I think that's part of it.
I know he can't read, but why is he so stupid?
I don't know. And
they do sort of present him as if like inside he's brilliant, He just can't.
Well, because we're seeing him through Angela's eyes, where like she's reading all this stuff into his behavior that is really not there.
But it's like he doesn't even know his teacher's
He's
name.
Just an empty vessel.
He really
just a pretty empty vessel.
It's so funny. I love that the show seems to know that.
Yeah.
It's not.
The only person who doesn't, I think, is Angela.
Yeah.
But Rayanne is shaving her legs in the bathroom. Brian is being a creep. That is a running theme. But finally we get to the bathroom. And Rayanne is dressed up, as we said, as a vampire in her swishy cape. Ricky is wearing Brian's clothes. He's dressed as, quote unquote, everyone else. I love it. I love it.
It's really fun.
Oh, I love Ricky.
Yeah, I liked everybody in the pilot, but I see what's to love about these characters. It's really clear by now.
Yeah.
And there's also a really fun another little role reversal sort of where Rayanne's like, you look really good without makeup. It's like,
yeah,
I don't even think you need makeup.
Right.
You're like naturally beautiful.
And he does look very sweet and handsome. And there's a scene just after this where he and Angela walk down the hall together in their costumes and they look like a couple from the 60s.
It's really cute.
Yeah. But we get another mention of Tino. Tino, if you don't know this, Tino never actually shows up in this show. He's constantly mentioned.
That was my guess.
Yeah. He's just a invisible friend.
So funny.
Yeah. He's always like involved, but
on his
not.
way,
yeah.
knowing everything.
Yep. He's Mr. Halloween. So Angela dresses up in the clothes that Rayanne gives her, that are her aunt's clothes from the 60s. And Angela opens up the book that she's been given for the next reading assignment from her English teacher, her terrible English teacher, and she finds out that it was once owned by Nicky Driscoll.
Can you believe it?
I can't. He's chosen her.
I know.
He's chosen Angela. So there's a lot of stories about good old Nicky Driscoll. That he died on Halloween, that he and his friends were playing a prank and they wanted to paint the gym black. So he just because I think they say like for no reason. Yeah. And so he was up in the rafters and he fell on a spike heel that was on the floor.
Listen to them just describe the details and go back and forth on this for an hour. It was so perfect, like urban legend.
Yep.
And then the going back and forth of one of them being like, they just tell you that because they don't want us playing in the rafters.
Right.
Of, like these stories being ways to control kids.
Cautionary tales.
Or is it real?
Right.
Or, it's so good. It's everything.
And there's random people that we don't ever see again popping in to like give their 2 cents.
Everybody knows some version of this story.
Yeah. Sharon comments on it. She says, like, our moms even know about him. And some of the other stories it was the Halloween before Kennedy got shot, which somehow is important. Ricky heard that he was actually hanging a banner to declare his love for some girl when he fell. Sharon's uncle's friend said that the electricity went out at the exact time that he died. And then this is where we find out Rayanne's mom's sister, who was like 12 years old, was like on the back of his bike at some point. And those are her clothes that you're wearing. Ooh. Oh my God. Yeah. So we get our setup of this urban or suburban legend about Nicky Driscoll. Now Angela has his book.
And she's possessed by the cardigan.
Yes.
I think because it's got the ticket to the Halloween hop in the
Which
pocket.
we find out as soon as they walk out of the bathroom. Yeah. Right. It's so funny nowadays because of like meme culture. The first thing she says is like, it has pockets. And I was like, that's a different thing now.
Yeah.
Yep. It has pockets.
Kids.
But in that pocket is a ticket to the Halloween hop in 1963.
So that's how you know this is real.
Yeah. Yep. She accidentally calls Nicky Driscoll, Nicky Catalano here, which is like, obviously we're comparing this 60s rebel to our 90s rebel. Obviously. She even thinks she sees Nicky Driscoll at the top of the stairs. Ends up it's actually Jordan.
Just to make it so clear for us.
They're not being subtle. They're not being subtle about this at all. So Angela goes to him. Angela's so annoying in this episode. She's like, you're going to get kicked out of school.
It's like it even matters.
I know. He's also annoying. He's like, well, it doesn't matter. What is this place doing for me anyway?
So funny.
Yeah. Yeah. But she gives him the message, and then...
he doesn't even know his teacher's name.
No, he doesn't. He's he's got deeper thoughts to think.
I'm saying that, but like when I taught I didn't teach in high school. I only substituted taught in high school, thank God. But when I taught actual like technical adults, there were often times where a student would come into class and it would be very clear that they forgot my name. So maybe I leave Jordan alone.
I guess. I don't know. In high school, I knew all of my teachers' names.
Yeah.
You only have
He also
a few.
Can't read, so
that is true. Rayanne is super excited because she told Tino about the book, and he's going to meet them at 9 to contact the spirit of Nicky Driscoll.
Of course, Tino knows how.
Yeah,
he'll know.
Yeah. Angela goes and pulls the yearbook from 1963 from the library to find his photo. This is where we get the Kurt Cobain of it all. This is like right after he died when they filmed this.
Whoa, I missed.
You didn't see it?
Maybe it's when I was texting you about the haunted cardigan, probably.
Oh,
I missed the Cobain reference.
When she pulls out the yearbook, she puts it on the table, and she puts it on top of the cover of Rolling Stone about Kurt Cobain's death. And Rayanne picks it up and says something like, I can't even look at that, and puts it down. I
was 100% texting you about the haunted cardigan.
Yeah.
The possessed cardigan.
It's there's the Kurt Cobain reference in there.
Because we talked about it in the pilot. He died like while they were probably filming season 1, right? Like it's right there.
Yeah. He died April 8th, 1994. And this show aired August 25th, 1994 to January 26th, 1995. So yeah, they included it purposefully. And, it makes sense that this is where they included it because they're talking about like troubled people who die young, they're like kind of fitting that in to the conversation. Both Ricky and Rayanne are wandering around humming Blue Moon.
Right, because the past is seeping in.
Yeah, exactly. And Angela's not sure she wants to do this. She says she has trouble even contacting alive guys, which I thought was a good line.
That's really good.
Yeah.
This show is really funny. Like, genuinely funny.
It is. There's a lot of lines that are like almost absurdist. Mm-hmm. Right after this, actually, they're outside and Brian comes up and we get the Brian and Ricky interaction that you were asking me about over text.
The vibes between Brian and Ricky gave me the impression that they had like an almost kiss or something in a previous episode.
I don't think so. No, I don't remember anything like that. I remember that. So for me, what I think it is that Brian and Ricky are both on the outside in different ways. Mm-hmm. Like Ricky is more on the inside with that group of kids. He is very tight with Rayanne and Angela. But he's outside of society in a different way than Brian is, and in a scarier way than Brian is. Like Brian doesn't have the danger of being a queer kid. He's just unpopular and hard to like.
Nerd,
yes,
which is
exactly
2 strikes against him. Ricky, it's a totally different thing. He's a creepy white nerd.
Yes, yes, but they're both on the outside in different ways, and I think you do see. The reason people love Ricky so much is because of the way that he, as a character, like independently interacted with other characters in the show. Like you see there's a moment in the bathroom where he and Angela are like face to face, and I think he's like fixing her glasses or something. And there's this real sweetness between the two of them throughout the whole series. There's a different relationship between him and between him and Rayanne. But the way he interacts with Brian, it feels very much to me like two people that are both on the outside, but in different ways. And like Ricky is nicer to Brian than the other people are because he understands more what it's like to be like really left out and really shut out.
Right.
He's consistently nicer to everyone, but also Brian.
Just especially the stuff for me that I was like reading in like symbolically, like Brian, letting Ricky borrow his clothes and like this more so like I said, if you had told me they shared some like almost kiss early on, I wouldn't have been surprised, but I also wouldn't be surprised if you were like, no, but what happens later is Brian begins to like question his own sexuality, and so he's seeing something in Ricky that he recognizes in himself and like seeing him wear these clothes and all, but no.
Nope. Brian is obsessed with Angela, and Rayanne sexually, apparently.
Well, wouldn't it be very interesting for Brian to see bisexuality represented, right? Because Ricky's bisexual, right?
Yeah. But no.
The new sexuality that had just emerged.
Yes. Yeah, he's a trendsetter. But no, Brian is just a creep who's obsessed with Angela and Rayanne, and Ricky is sort of, I think, to me, he sees Ricky as a way in to that group because Ricky is nicer to him.
That makes sense, too.
And doesn't make fun of him as much. And so he's being nice to Ricky in a way, I think, to get to hang out with that group of people. So Brian says that Ricky can return the clothes whenever. Marianne is like, why would he want to keep them? They're so mean to Brian here. I hate Brian and I don't care, but they're so mean to him.
Right.
And he makes sure Ricky knows that you've got to wash the pants separate.
So funny.
Yeah. Apparently, he cares a lot about the laundry processes of his clothing.
Of these cargo pants, too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then we go into nighttime, right? And they're standing around outside. It's Rayanne and Ricky. Angela is like skulking around because she heard something or something. Mm-hmm. And Brian shows up again. He's just always around. He left his keys.
Yeah, he really is.
Left his keys in the pants.
Uh-huh.
That's his excuse for being there. He locked himself out of his house because the keys are in the pants. Mm-hmm. Rayanne is doing a lot of drinking in this episode. This is something that comes up repeatedly. Her alcohol use.
Right.
Of course, Tino didn't show up.
That's so... I really love the Tino stuff. It is really... It's such a funny gag to do.
I know. And it's a good little, like, story mechanism, right? Because the fact that Tino didn't show up means that they can't get into the building unless they find a way to break in. Right. He was going to be the one that somehow knew how to get them in.
Mm-hmm. But, thank God, Brian's here.
He knew some clever chess club way to get in.
What is that? What does that mean?
It says, like, you're a nerd. You understand how to, like, do stuff.
It's a little... He's got a little... Willow from Buffy in this episode where he's like got knowledge that nerd or not there's no reason he should have.
Right. Well, for me it's like, okay, he must have figured this out because he forgot his homework one time and was so worried about not having his homework done that he found a way to break into the school.
Yeah, that's also very Willow, except Willow's not a creep.
Yeah. But he does. And so they go through a window into this, like, AV graveyard that Rayanne refers to it as. I wrote, Brian is such a drip.
He really is a drip.
He's the worst. He's just irredeemable for me. I'm sorry. Like, I watched this whole series, and I always hated him. He just, to me, he's now an incel, if he was a real person.
Oh, 100%.
He's a men's rights activist.
For sure.
Yeah. That's like that's his path, unfortunately. But they get into the building, they're in the hallway, and Angela sees Nicky Driscoll walk by. No one else seems to.
Well, nobody's wearing a haunted cardigan, Jodie.
Right, of course.
Think about it.
Yeah, of course. So she goes to chase after him. Brian lets the door shut, so they're locked in there because he's staring at Rayanne's legs.
Right, because he's a creep.
Yeah. And so he decides that he's going to figure out something with the computer system to shut it off so they can sneak out without setting off the alarm.
Right.
Sure.
Again, computers were new. Like, I know computers weren't new in the 90s, but you know what I mean? But enough, and adults were confused about them enough that they would write things like this.
Yeah.
Like this teenager somehow has...
He's going to bypass the mainframe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they go into some sort of generator room, it looks like, and the lights go off.
Mm-hmm. Well,
they went off when Nicky Driscoll died.
The moment he died.
Yes.
So.
And Angela's walking through the hallways at this time looking for Nicky. It's now fully 1963 because two girls in full 60s, regalia walking by with their 45 records in the little cases.
Really yeah.
I'm old enough to have had one of those little record cases.
We had them in my home,
them.
like leftover,
Yeah, I had my own little, like, for the little 45s. Cute. Yeah, when I was a little kid.
That's really fun.
She goes in the gym, and there's a bunch of streamers and balloons, and it's the enchantment under the sea. No, it's it is not Back to the Future. It is
It's the Halloween hop.
It's the Halloween hop, exactly. We flip here to Ricky and Jordan, our little scene of deep thoughts about missing things in life.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
But it is real.
Yeah, especially when you're a teenager.
Like, it's the stuff that's over dramatic in this is over dramatic the way teens are over dramatic. It's again not Dawson's Creek.
Right. Yeah. Because Jordan's complaining about how they do the same thing every time. They like tear up the field and
knock over the trash can.
Right. And Ricky's like, well, why can't you just go? Mm-hmm. And Jordan's like, because what if something cool happens? What if something, does and you just miss it? Mm-hmm. But to me, the more like big picture part of this scene that was important is just the danger, like the feeling of danger when Ricky, a queer kid, is walking at night through the field and there's a bunch of like drunk guys on motorcycles. Mm-hmm. Like that to me is a setup for something else that gets avoided here. And weirdly enough, it partly gets avoided because Jordan is not a total monster. Mm-hmm. Like I think we're supposed to think that he has deep feelings. And he hangs out with these creeps, but he has deep feelings. And so
he's not like them. Right. He's like hiding from himself. And he does it by pretending like he's the kind of kid who wants to hang out with these hooligans.
Exactly.
It's kind of like Ponyboy Curtis.
It's like, very Jack and the Fraternity.
Also that. Yeah.
But he tells Ricky, you better get out of here. These guys are getting a little crazy.
Mm-hmm, they're ripped.
Yeah. And he's right. Ricky should not be there.
No.
Because that kind of like drunk attention you do not want in your direction.
Right.
So Angela's back in the gym and she's listening to two girls talk about Nicky Driscoll and how he is like not good enough and he's a loser and he went to the cemetery with his friends but he gave one of them, Connie, I believe her name is, which is a very 60s name. He gave Connie a rose. These girls...
It's so... I know we've said the parallels, but it's just 1-to-1. It's really funny.
Yeah. 100%. They're stuffing their bras with tissues, as Rayanne offered for Angela to do.
That's a fun little callback, because she says that's how they did it back then. Yep. I don't remember her exact line, but basically, and then that's
what they're doing
back then.
Yeah. They leave. Angela picks the rose up off the floor. She sees Nicky in the hallway. And then we flipped. Oh, yeah. There's like a break to go back to the parents here, which I'm kind of over the parents. We go back to Rayanne and Brian in the basement. And we have this like kind of not so subtle bullying going on. Like Brian he doesn't know how to fix the lights and she doesn't want him to leave her. She says she's afraid of the dark, but she's been bullying him. So he's trying to leave.
Yeah.
She's been making fun of him. And so she makes up a story. This is so funny.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. So she makes up this story where she's like, when my dad would come home, he'd be drunk and he would lock me in the basement and I would press my face against the door because I could see the light we'd leave on.
Yeah.
But if I looked away, everything would be dark. And that is heartbreaking. And she puts her head down like she's crying. And then you realize she's laughing.
And he puts his arm around her to comfort her.
Right.
Yeah. But, she does say right after that, very jokingly, in a very trauma response way, like, oh, my dad never actually came home, so that's not real.
That's what I was I was wondering how much of her like home life do we know about at this point.
We've gotten some. I can't remember what order these go in, but her dad isn't around. Her mom is not great. So yeah, there's definitely like there's been information at this point. I can't remember. There's like a pivotal episode called like Someone Else's Mother, I think. That I can't remember if this is before or after. Let me just look it up real quick.
Yep.
So this is episode 9, Halloween. Oh, right after this actually is Other People's Mothers is what it's called. Angela's entranced by Rayanne's outspoken and confident mother while also being envious of their perfect relationship, which it is not.
Right. And you find out, I'm sure that.
Yeah. So, yeah. So we're about to get more into that.
Okay.
This is my favorite line in the whole episode. She's teasing Brian about staring at her, and he says, my hobby is photography, so I'm like trained to notice stuff. Which, yes.
I mean, I was going to say that.
Yes, it's true, but it's a little bit of an excuse.
Uh-huh.
Creepy guys with cameras give the rest of us a bad name.
Well, and she has a good reply that is like, where she says, being the stuff people notice is my hobby. I mean, I live for it.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
You know,
no,
you get a lot about both of their characters there.
Exactly. It's a really good response. We go back to the hallway where Angela and Nicky finally speak. This is full on integration now.
Right. Well, we also learn right before this what Nicky was actually doing in the rafters.
Right. Well, we think.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's got. It's just all the more to give us Nicky as Jordan, because his friend is like, we have to hang this like again, like you said, effigy of the principal in the rafters,
right?
Because they're gonna like try to kick Nicky and Billy out of school.
Yep. Teachers and principals, man.
Right. But
This is also pump up the volume.
It is also pump up the volume.
The conspiracy to kick all the kids out of school so that the records look better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Nicky's like trying to convince him not to. He's like got a little, I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. And Angela's trying to stop him, just like she's trying to stop Jordan. She's trying to save him. Yeah. She's talking about how he threw his life away for no reason. He sees her holding the rose and realizes that the girl that he gave it to, like, left it behind. Talks about how, like, she's too good for him or whatever. It's just so Jordan coded the whole time.
Yeah. And so Angela says, like, don't do it, you're going to get hurt. And he says, at least I'll know I'm alive. Doesn't she say that earlier in the episode?
When they sneak in with Brian, he says something about how she's going to get in trouble. He's lecturing her again about how she's behaving because he's her fucking parent or something. And she's like, at least I'll know I'm alive. So yes, it is. That's also a callback.
Just the most overdramatic people.
Yes. But yeah, she tries to stop him. He goes off with his friend. She runs after him, tries to open the door dramatically, and then collapses on the floor.
Right.
And finds the rose. And that's all we get of Nicky. She didn't do it. She didn't stop him.
Yeah.
That's it.
So hopefully she'll get another chance, you know.
Next Halloween.
Yeah, maybe.
Got to try again. Got to go back.
Or, you know, she couldn't fix Nicky, but just maybe.
Just maybe. Yeah, she'll have a chance with Jordan.
That's right.
Got to save someone.
I will say the pacing on this I thought was a little odd because now it's daytime.
Yep, it is. It's a weird jump. I totally agree. Because we don't even go back to them right away. We go to Danielle returning Angela's clothes first.
Exactly.
And she leaves her some candy.
Okay. Jodie.
Yes.
We're supposed to be like, oh, it's sweet. She leaves her the worst candy.
She does leave her the worst candy.
It's a fucking Starlight Mint and like a drive-through bank lollipop.
Yeah.
This is not a peace offering. It's an attack.
No, a peace offering would be a Snickers.
Yeah. Well, or like a Reese cup.
Sure.
Or,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
not
even a Kit Kat.
Yeah. Totally.
She might as well have left her one of the little like wax wrapped black orange. You know what I mean? The like nickel candy.
Or like what are those grandma mints? The little chocolate and mint foil wrapped things that were in a bowl, usually a crystal bowl. What the fuck are those called?
I don't remember.
I wanted to call them Thin Mints, but that's not it. That's a Girl Scout
right.
cookie.
Yeah.
It's the mint candies.
Are you talking about Andes?
Maybe. My grandma always had them on the table.
Okay, we're about to really get into it. Andes, Andes. Is that what you're talking about?
Let me look. Yes, that is what I'm talking about.
They're elite. How dare you? You could have said root beer barrel. You could have said those weird little strawberries that are filled with beetles. Like, you could have said anything.
I liked the strawberries
candy.
with beetles a lot.
Jodie!
Oh, Werther's. I like Werther's too.
I was going to say Werther's
Werther's are good. Yeah.
But everybody knows Starlight Mint, those weird black, like Bitto honey,
a Necco wafer.
A Necco wafer.
Yeah.
These are all...
Some pennies. She could have left her some pennies.
Some pennies taped together.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of these are interchangeable.
Yeah.
But
apparently not the Andes Mints. I apologize.
Wow. We should just strike that from the record.
I like them just
so
fine,
good.
but to me, they're sitting in a bowl on my grandma's table.
That's so funny.
A crystal
your
bowl.
grandma had good taste then.
Yeah. I also noted here the Anne Frank book is still on her table. She's still reading Anne Frank. Mm-hmm. It's her most relatable book, I guess. The one she identifies with the most.
I do like the attention to detail, though.
Yeah, totally.
It is still there.
And also I noted here Danielle is like looking through all the stuff on Angela's table, all of her like teen accoutrement, all her like perfumes and her hairspray and stuff. Yeah. And I almost said they did such a good job but it's shot in the 90s. I'm like, oh, that's like such a 90s perfume because it was the fucking 90s.
Because it was the 90s.
For me, it was very nostalgic.
It's the same with the Kurt Cobain thing. Like hearing him, like thinking about him being mentioned in this episode, where it's like, of course you would include that if you were doing a throwback,
right?
But that's because it was so impactful at the time.
Yeah, it had just happened. Mm-hmm. Then we go back to school finally, and Rayanne and Brian have fallen asleep in the electric room, the generator room. They scream when they look at each other, which is cute. And then they notice the janitor standing over them, and we think they're going to get in trouble. But
I loved this. I love Rayanne.
Yeah. Yeah. She knows everyone.
Mm-hmm. She says, like, George is my man, he won't tell because there's nothing to tell because we were never here, right, George?
Yeah.
I think she high-fives him on her way out.
And he's just, you can see him just being like, whatever, kid.
Oh, right, yeah. The next time we see all of them is back at school. So
right.
Who knows who went where and did what. Ricky washed Brian's clothes, so they had time to do that at least.
Yeah. And then, so we see them back at school. Brian is all excited because he's now hung out with them overnight. And he's like, did Rayanne tell you what happened? And Ricky, of course, shoots him down. Says, well,
because he's
being creepy again.
Yeah, nothing happened.
They fell asleep. But he now is like, oh, I'm in.
Right.
But Ricky's like, oh, yeah, she said nothing happened. Right. And it was, a total waste of time. Brian looks sad. And then there's this like interesting blocking, I guess, that happens where Rayanne walks through the two of them. Ricky peels off to follow her, and Brian looks at them and then goes the other way. And it's like, that didn't work. Brian, you're not one of them still.
Right. Because you're a creep and a weirdo. And I don't like you.
Exactly. And then we finally get the last bit with Angela and Jordan.
I'll just drop that in the chat for you if you want the direct.
Okay, yes, because the lines are ridiculous. Because she's trying to save him, right? So she sees him. She's like, I couldn't save Nicky. I'm going to save Jordan. Wait, can we do a dramatic reading? Let's do it. I'll be Angela. You're not going to class?
What's it to you?
You're going to get expelled. Don't you care?
It don't matter.
Of course it matters. Keep going. That's good.
She's looking to throw me out, okay? She's been waiting for this. She thinks I'm a loser.
You're crazy to let her tell you what you are.
It's so dumb.
I know. Keep going.
What are you talking about?
She doesn't know you. She doesn't know who you are. You can't let her decide what you do.
Hey, I decide what I do. Maybe I want to get kicked out of school.
Maybe you don't. It doesn't. Maybe you do. Sorry. Maybe you do. Doesn't mean people can't try to stop you and tell you. I know you think, like, how could someone like me understand? Only I do. No, she doesn't.
No, she doesn't. And
she has such a normal life at home.
And, like...
she can read. She can read.
She knows how to read.
She knows how to read.
And the back and forth of, I decide what I do. Maybe I want to get kicked out of school. She's like, oh, wait. You can't let her decide what you do. And then he says, like, I decide what I do, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then she tries to tell him what to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
She's like, it doesn't mean people can't try and stop you.
Yeah.
And tell you, I don't know, like, So it's okay. It's only okay when Angela does it.
Yeah.
Because she knows what's really good for him.
Yeah, she's trying to save him. She's, you know, they've got a connection. But of course, my notes say Angela is ridiculous. So she goes to class. His seat is empty. Teacher starts talking about the next reading.
I have a question. So Miss Lerner, is a little on the nose. You might as well call her Miss Teacher.
Yep.
She says, today we're going to be visiting Mr. Dickens' world of dark factories, gray skies, and lost souls. This is Pittsburgh, is that right?
Oh, I have no fucking idea. I should, but...
Okay, I think we looked it up. I think the town is based, it's like in the Rust
where they are.
Belt.
It's near there. Yes.
I didn't think Dickens was writing a
No,
story
I know,
about Pittsburgh.
no, I know.
Although, you know what's funny about that?
What?
Is I just literally yesterday learned that Dickens loved Pittsburgh. He called it heaven rising out of hell.
Oh, I recently heard that quote.
Love it or leave it.
Yeah, that's where that
what it
was.
on.
Yep.
I literally just listened. That's so funny. I just listened to that yesterday. So this show doesn't know how on the nose it's being. Because I was about to joke, like, oh, I don't think Dickens was writing about Pittsburgh, but he literally has written about Pittsburgh.
Really funny.
So I just wonder if we're supposed to be paralleling, like, she's acting like it's this not mystical. She's acting like it's this kind of like we're taking a journey through literature to a world unknown to us.
Right.
But it might as well be Pittsburgh.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
so.
no, this does take place outside of Pittsburgh, I believe, theoretically. But then he shows up.
She got through to him.
She reached him.
She didn't say anything.
He's not gonna go down like Nicky did. She's gonna save him.
And this is what I mean, though. If I were Jordan, and I'm not saying that Jordan and I have much in common, but I will say we were two kids with potential. We just didn't know how to apply ourselves.
Maybe he has ADHD.
Right. But I knew how to read, so I've got that up on him.
Yeah.
He comes in and she says, how nice to see you. Are you just visiting or are you going to stay with us for a while?
Such
Would
a
have been
bitch.
the quickest way to get me to leave that classroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
She is a bad teacher.
Yeah. Well, I cannot believe I'm referencing Dawson's Creek this much, but it reminds me of
so good.
Pacey's teacher who, like...
That fucking shithead dude.
Where he's like... Pacey's like, dude, like, I am trying, and you are being an asshole about it.
Right.
Unnecessarily.
Right.
Like, it's so obnoxious.
Oh, when he spits in that teacher's face because he puts Jack in that terrible position.
Yeah.
Just...
To read the poem about being gay.
Love of my life.
He's a defender of the LGBTQ population.
That's right. Pacey's an ally, and he stands up for what's right.
He is an ally. But so the last thing we see, Angela is proud of herself, obnoxiously. She opens her book, and the rose is in there.
Oh, spooky.
Yes.
A little spooky.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't there before.
No. It wasn't.
And it's clearly like 60 or 50 years old at this point.
And it's pressed in between the cover of the book that he sent to her. So that's our Halloween fable from My So-Called Life.
So fun.
It's so
silly. Really liked this episode.
Yeah, I'm glad we watched it. I was a little unsure because when I first went to watch it, I only got through the first little section, and I was a little annoyed about how much of the parents was in it. But then once we got to like the story itself and the legend and all of that, I was like, oh, this is just such a teen legend of like the way stories get translated and told and
totally,
exaggerated.
There's an episode of Buffy that comes out a few years after this. It's basically this same story, but because it's Buffy, the ghosts are... Although they're kind of real in this episode, too.
They are.
But they're 100% real. But it is... And so the difference is, instead of two teenagers, just to bring it back to Dawson's Creek, it's a teacher and a student who fall in love in the 50s. And instead of Blue Moon, the song is I Only Have Eyes for You. It's like the motif throughout. And... Buffy and a vampire that she is involved with get taken over, and so they're able to play out what happens and send the souls to rest. But it is the same thing in the high school after dark, like, and then slowly back in the 50s.
Yeah,
and it's the same story, but it's not. It's obviously they're not like ripping off My So-Called Life. It's that this is one of those stories that gets told over and over and over
it's
again.
classic storytelling. Totally.
But it is, we're supposed to, in the same way we're sort of supposed to root for Miss Jacobs and Pacey, we're supposed to feel for this teacher and student who are in this totally inappropriate relationship.
No wonder we were all so fucked up.
I know.
Ugh. I also just, this is so unrelated, but I was just looking at the synopsis of a couple of the other episodes of this show, and I forgot that part of the reason that I hate Brian is because he, in the next episode that I hadn't watched yet, episode 3, he spreads a rumor that Angela slept with Jordan. He's the worst. He's the absolute worst.
He feels real, though.
Yes,
like,
that's why
kid.
I think I hate him so much. Exactly. But yeah, this was a good sort of not innovative but very classic Halloween episode. Before we talk about what's next, I wanted to do a little bit of just general Halloween talk. Did I say that like Halloween talk? I meant to say it like Halloween talk. Excuse me. And
so New England of you.
Well, it also sounded like a TikTok reference, which it wasn't. Just they talk so much about costumes in this, and we talked in the beginning about the idea of like in high school, like, do you wear one? Do you not?
Right.
And also like, what kind of costume do you wear? Like, are you the person who does the like goofy costume or the scary costume or the sexy costume or the like
well, and there's so many, God, I have so many thoughts on this, Jodie, because there's also like the kids who come to the door, one of them is wearing that night costume, the like hard plastic, it's the shell and the helmet that we had in my house forever. Like that was just, you could buy that at any store.
I never had one.
Oh.
I never had one. I always had sort of DIY costumes.
Well,
so that's why I'm interested in this. Like there's the different ways it was approached as a kid, but then also in high school. And I think in high school is where it gets really interesting because of the performance of who you want to be seen as in high school. Like I just,
there's so much there because there's like, I'm thinking of the, like, you could go too hard. Or you could like the
you have to look like you're not trying and that it was just such an effortless like
and
cool.
Not trying, but also not because you couldn't, specifically at least where I grew up, and I'm sure you'll relate to this too, not because you couldn't afford it,
right? Because
I'm thinking of a kid, the specific kid I went to school with, and it breaks my heart. I'm picturing him in his homemade green Power Ranger costume. Aww. And just him being mercilessly bullied for it. And it's like, you would have been better off not dressing up at all. But like everybody knew it's because he couldn't afford a real costume. Yeah. And it's like, I just remember feeling so bad for him. And also like, I was a kid, we weren't poor, but we did not have money at all.
Yeah, same.
And so like, if I like, most of the time I didn't dress up for school, and that was less of a class money thing and more of a me just not wanting to be involved in anything thing. Yeah. But like I almost always every year until 8th grade dressed up outside of school. But all of that aside of being like, buddy, like you should just,
I know,
like you're drawing attention to all of us by doing this. Like, I
mean, I remember the feeling that it was cooler to buy the costume from the store that was already put together.
Yeah.
And I never did that.
It was one that wasn't like, because I think I've told this story on New Jersey is the World. It's not Halloween, but it's similar. My first year at my new school in Burlington County. So I went to school from 2nd through 5th grade. And in 2nd grade, they did a musical for all the 2nd graders. And we did the Nutcracker. And half of the class was mice and half of the class was toys. And the mice all just wore, I think they even made the ears maybe. And all of the toys were supposed to like make their own toy costume. And I don't know. This is not like my mom. I don't know how this happened, but she went and rented me from a professional costume store, a Raggedy Ann costume.
Oh, wow.
So I had the wig, the dress. We did like, we painted the cheeks on. And I went as Raggedy Ann. Like the bloomers and the striped knit socks, the shoes, all of it.
Wow.
And every other kid had a DIY costume.
Huh.
And I was not cool.
No, it was
for
the other
doing
direction.
it.
Yeah.
I was mortified. It was like that is like a real moment of like, again, that's second grade. There's a reason now that I think about it that I didn't dress up during the day, like in the school day after that.
We always kind of had to. Like it was in elementary school, at least, it was expected that there would be like,
because you would do the parade.
Yeah.
Again, I'm exaggerating. Once it became a thing of like you could or couldn't dress up, and we weren't doing the Halloween parade stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you have like a go-to last minute costume?
Which WITCH? Which
it took me a second to catch that.
Yeah, I saw that on your face.
I was like, what do you mean which?
Yeah,
witch,
for sure. But I was also probably the last generation where you could buy those horrifying, I'm obsessed with them now, costumes that were like a plastic smock that would just be like I had two. I had one that was Rainbow Bright. And so it was a hard plastic Rainbow Bright mask and then a plastic smock that just had a picture of Rainbow Bright on it.
Amazing.
It wasn't her costume.
Yeah. She was just wearing an apron of herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had that one,
great.
and I had a Care Bears one.
Yeah.
And so I wore those a few years in a row. And my cousin had a Ninja Turtle one, which I think was a little better. I think that one, the smock actually was their chest plate. Not Care Bears, Snow White. So I had the Rainbow Bright one and a Snow White one, and he had the Ninja Turtles, and we kind of we used those a few years in a row. What about you?
I had two.
Just knowing. Hold on, before I even knowing your history and like your lineage, I'm fascinated to hear what the answer is to this.
Okay, so there were two. Two default. I don't have anything else to do. One when I was a little bit younger and one when I was a little older. When I was younger, so I have two half brothers and I was in both of their weddings as like a flower girl and then like a junior bridesmaid. So I had floofy, pretty princess looking dresses.
Right.
So that was the default while I still fit into those, was put her in the dress from the wedding, put a crown on her head, give her a wand, she's a princess.
Right.
That was the easy thing to do. I had them already. It was basically free other than like a cheap crown. And then later on, if I was desperate for a costume, it was just a cat. I was the idiot wearing all black with some ears and a tail.
I was the rat girl.
I was Sharon, but I didn't look like a rat because I wasn't stupid enough to wear that strange nose.
Yeah.
But in reference to my lineage, as the child of a...
Is it time?
Oh, God.
You've never said it on
Haven't
the podcast.
I've never said it.
I don't think so.
Oh, my God.
I don't know if you've even said it on New Jersey's The World out loud.
Oh, I did. I have on a voicemail for sure.
Okay. Oh, boy.
So as the child of a professional clown...
Say it again.
No. I'm not doing it for you. I'm not giving you a setup for your stupid sound effects for my childhood trauma. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Don't you dare insert and put it in post.
Okay, fine.
This is very serious for me.
I know. You're right. I'm so sorry.
This is very serious.
I'm so sorry.
It's the worst thing to have a serious feeling about, but it's true. I was humiliated by this as a child.
I understand. I do understand.
And she didn't care that I was humiliated by it.
Yeah.
And she, I think, got a kick out of it. But so the result of that is that, and to this day, I hate makeup. Like, I do not, because I saw her put on the face paint, take off the face paint, put up, and I wore makeup a little bit as a teenager, but any sort of theatrical makeup, even like face painting, keep it the fuck away from me. I have like a physical aversion. Like, it makes me so uncomfortable to think about it. So I never did any of those costumes where you would make yourself look grotesque.
Smell.
Yeah,
it's 100%. Such a specific smell.
Absolutely. And so I never.
Not like she was putting you in the makeup, but just being around that all the time.
All the time. Yep. And so any costume that involved heavy face paint, makeup, any of that, never. Absolutely not. I would rather do anything else. So all of my costumes had to have either some sort of plastic mask if I was going to cover my face, or had to be okay with having my face mostly normal looking.
Right.
even with the cat thing, putting on like a little black nose and whiskers, even that was a bit much for me. I did it because otherwise it looked stupid, but I did not like it.
That's like the most you could stomach.
Yeah, and I could barely stomach that.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. So as an adult, I ended up doing more joke costumes when I was doing them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't dressed up in years.
Me either.
I had two pretty good, I can really only think of two pretty good adult costumes. And one is I made like a robot costume out of cardboard, like out of like a big cardboard box that I spray painted, and I got the what are those? Are they dryer? The like big round accordion fold tubes?
Oh yeah.
That like the flexible like pipes.
Yeah, it's like HVAC
pipes.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
And I like spray painted it silver, did the whole thing, and like I got like a not Etch-a-Sketch, but it was like a screen, and it had the little like abacus built in, like from the dollar store, and put that on. So it was like a very purposeful DIY robot where like the buttons were buttons, and that was really fun. And then I was also, this is niche, but I'll bet a lot of our listeners will recognize it. I was Abed's Inspector Spacetime costume. So like the bathrobe and like, that one I felt really, I was really happy with that.
That's a good one. I can only think of one adult DIY costume that I know I did more than that, but there's one I think that for some reason is the one I'm remembering, but I think it was in my 20s and we were all going to a party. And so I was a cat burglar, and you're thinking she was a cat that burgled. But no, I was a burglar that stole cats. I was
that is good.
Somewhat proud of this one. So I dressed kind of like a burglar, and I had a sack. And in my sack were stuffed cats. And I had recorded my actual cat meowing and had it coming out of the bag. And
that's really fun.
I think it was my skirt or something was like scratching post material.
Fun.
And I had like a cat hanging from it. Yeah, it was a pretty good one.
That is really good. I like that. I just thought of like thinking about people going too hard or not hard enough with costumes, and that being is my best friend. He's a few years younger than me. And so he was like right at the start of like Pokemon being the big thing. And he told his mom he wanted to be Pikachu for Halloween because all of the kids were just buying Pokemon costumes.
Yeah.
And his mom, she was like a home ec teacher, what do they call it? Life sciences teacher now. So she's like a seamstress, and she made him a Pikachu costume. And Pikachu is a big round. So he puts on this Pikachu costume with a big belt. Like he's like a big fat Pikachu, and he goes to school, and all of the other kids, of course, are in costumes that they bought. And like Pikachu is just like a bodysuit, basically, right, with like a little tail, and was just, again, mercilessly bullied for being fat Pikachu. And I just think about him being a little like 10-year-old fat Pikachu, and I love it so much, but it also breaks my heart. But it's like we just decide as kids like what is and isn't cool and what isn't okay. And for some reason, like accurate homemade costume, no matter how good it is, we don't want to see it. What is it? What is the thing that makes kids feel repelled by that or repulsed?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's part of it is the dislike of sincerity, if I'm being completely honest. Like it's the idea that like you didn't try that hard. Like, come on. Like you tried because you bought the thing, but you didn't try that hard. You know, it's like,
that bums me out.
I know.
Especially because as you get older, if I were at a costume party this year, and a homemade fat Pikachu walked in,
amazing.
That'd be incredible.
I have one to go to this year, and I'm not sure if I'm going to actually go because then I have to get up insanely early the next morning, but it's a work one.
Oh, fun.
And I literally have to be at school at 7 the next morning, and I live an hour away, so I don't know that I can function. But I have one that I've been holding in my back pocket that nobody's going to understand other than like 2 people I work with. I think I've asked you this before. Have you seen the photograph of Susan Sontag in a bear suit? Have I asked you this before?
I don't know if you have.
Google Susan Sontag bear suit. It's fantastic. And like 2 people will get this if I do it, but it's great.
That is good.
Isn't it good?
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing you need really is a bear suit and like a silver streak in your hair. You can't even see that in the photograph, but that's what would give it the Sontag.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very fun. I just assumed you were going to be Angela Chase, which is like,
that's not hard. I could do that. I could just wear the clothes I wear every day now.
I was just going to say.
But the Susan Sontag in a bear suit one came up because we did in the gallery where I work, had a show connected to the Notes on Camp show at the Met. And of course, Sontag wrote the famous essay, Notes on Camp. And so I was going to go to the party that year as Susan Sontag. I didn't get my shit together to do it. And so now I'm like, well, now it's not connected to the theme anymore.
So what?
But Sontag in a bear suit is like fantastic.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah. So I still might do that at some point.
That is really good.
Actually, I was going to say nobody steal it, but steal
party.
it. I know. Bunch of art nerds.
Yeah.
Like 2 people will get it, but that's okay.
But then when you tell them what it is,
yeah,
other people will then get it. Like,
yeah,
even if they haven't seen that picture. Like,
yeah. But yeah, I have not really dressed up for Halloween in a really long time.
Yeah,
I haven't. It's an effort thing.
Did we do a Halloween live show? I'm trying to remember the last time I would have dressed up. And the last time I dressed up for anything was the New Jersey is the World 90s live show where I was the
yes.
B-girl. But
yes.
I don't think that was Halloween. That was the 90s.
No, that was just a 90s themed thing. Because that's also, when I say I dressed up, I wore large jeans and a flannel. That was my 90s clothing and my current clothing.
I bought a pair of like big, overly long wide legs.
Did you buy Jenkos?
They're not Jenkos.
Okay.
They're like off brand because I couldn't let myself spend what it would probably cost on a pair of Jenkos.
Yeah.
But they're like
because they're fucking back.
Yeah. I don't know that I'll wear them out of the house, but it felt so good to put them on. It really was like, mama's home.
Yeah.
I was really,
I mean, I felt very comfortable in the clothes I wore to that show.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Jenkos. I always say Jenkos for some reason. Jenkos are...
That's like what like my pop-up would have called them. Jenkos. You should call them Junkos.
Yeah. They are... I'm looking on their website.
Who?
$180 for the women's corduroy version.
You must know I'm not.
$160 for the jeans.
But you can get a dupe at PacSun for $35.
There you go.
Jesus, Jenko. I think the ones I bought were, I shouldn't.
$250.
But they were like from one of those like fast fashion online only stores. So
wow. $250.
Okay, but Jodie.
I know they're good.
They're really good.
They're really good. I feel like this.
Man, it really feels like looking at them now.
I don't know that I ever had the official ones. I had like dupes. I had copies.
I may have had one pair. There was another brand that the price point was friendlier. They sold them at Pacific Sunwear, and I can't remember what they were called, but I had a few of those, and they were like, they'd be real weird. Like I had one. God, what were we doing? I had this one pair. They were so wide, but then also the bottom like third, like mid calf was was furry, like why can't I think of the word? What do you call those furry blankets? It's a regular word.
Fleece?
Like it was like fleece, bright orange fleece.
Oh, I had a pair of orange Jenko adjacent pants.
Yeah, the
full
whole pant
orange, like parachute pant material.
Incredible. No, these were like dark denim wash, but then the bottom third was like bright orange fleece, and they would drag the ground, and then you would wear them in the rain, and because they were fur, it would wick, or because they were fat. What do I? Not fur, because they were fleece. I keep forgetting that word. It would like wick up. And you would be just...
The jeans would do that anyway, but fleece would be worse.
And then they'd be waterlogged.
Yeah.
What were we doing?
I mean, so I was a little old for the full-on look, like the version of that.
Right.
So what I did, because I was a deadhead at the time... I know. And actually, no, this was going into when I was living in New York. So I did the vintage men's jeans version. I would just buy men's pants, like men's denim that was way too big for me and put a belt on.
And just let them like
and they would
up at the
also drag around on the ground.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
all back, dude. It's
I'm
all
glad
back.
that other people will have to deal with
wet legs.
Wet leg. Pipes was the other brand.
Okay.
And
that's familiar.
A little more
oh yes.
A little more price friendly, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. That's so funny.
I could do this.
I know, those pants, man. Yeah, those were the days. Tiny shirt, big pants. That was the look. Small shirt, big pants.
And it's back.
Yeah, it is. Okay, well, that's our fashion corner.
I'm not cutting a single second of that.
Okay, that's fine. Before we go, I just have to talk to you briefly about 2 upcoming things I noticed that are very Andrea coded.
Ooh.
Number 1, have you seen the, I guess it's a documentary that's coming out about the making of Lost?
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet, but
I don't know if it's out yet.
They just had their premiere pretty recently.
Yeah.
And someone who I know
Getting
vaguely,
Lost is what it's called.
Yeah, was involved with it. So I have seen a lot of promo for it. I am
it's still in screenings.
So excited to see that.
I bet you are.
Yeah.
And the other is I've asked you this privately, but I think it needs to be made public. Are you planning on watching the new Joshua Jackson show, Dr. Odyssey? Described by him in an interview as having big deck energy.
Oh, Pacey, why?
It looks so fucking funny and cheesy and stupid.
I think
it's like Love Boat, but
it knows that it does, yes. Cheesy and stupid, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
That's my only...
Yeah.
I just knowing his sort of personality...
Yeah.
I just can't imagine he would do a show like that.
Yeah.
That was being sincere.
I would hope not. Do you know the sort of log line for the show? Like what the originals...
He's a cruise ship doctor, right?
Yes, but do you know what he also is?
No. What do you mean?
Apparently, he's also in this show Patient Zero for COVID.
It's a COVID cruise?
It's not. It's like post-COVID. But apparently, I guess the reason he wants to change his life and live well and live luxuriously is because he was patient 0 of COVID. I heard this on another podcast. So if I'm wrong, don't quote me on it. But I heard this on a Ringer podcast and they're usually correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, Rachel
Dratch is in it.
I was just going to say, Shania Twain.
Twain. John Stamos.
Don Johnson.
Yeah, I knew Don Johnson was in it. He's actually kind of a big deal in it.
And here's what makes me both more interested but also a little nervous is that it's a Ryan Murphy creation.
Yes, it is.
So that's what tells me it's obviously not just going to be a straightforward thing.
Right.
But it's also a Ryan Murphy creation, and I have such ambivalence about that man.
Yeah.
And most of my feelings, I guess ambivalence isn't the right word, because I would say the majority of my feelings are negative, but he does do interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And so that kind of makes me want to give it a whirl. So,
well, what makes you want to give it a whirl is Joshua Jackson.
I mean, of course.
Yeah, obviously.
Also, I mean, listen, I've loved Pacey since day one, but I had no idea this is who he was going to grow into. You know what I mean?
You loved him even when he had the weird bangs.
And the frosted tips.
Tips.
He's everything to me.
Yeah.
Max Bankman is a very funny name.
Oh, that's his name on the show?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
So
amazing. Yeah. Max Bankman. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know that I will dive in, but I'm curious to hear if you do.
I mean, I'm gonna have to watch at least the first episode. I'll report back.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Let us know how the first episode was. Okay. I had to kind of bring that up because it's news in our world that there's a new Joshua Jackson show. And that there's a Lost documentary coming out. So
it's all big stuff for me.
Yeah. Big month for Andrea and
That's right.
her culture.
That's right.
Yeah. So should we talk about next week?
Yeah. So we're going to stick with this theme of revisiting episodes or revisiting shows that we've watched pilots of. You can't talk about this era of TV show Halloween episodes without looking at a Buffy episode, without watching a Buffy episode. And so all of their Halloween episodes are good, I think. But we're going to start with the first one, which is season 2, episode 18 in the series.
It's season 2, episode 6, I think.
And it's just called Halloween.
Yeah.
Aired October 27th, 97.
Just like the My So-Called Life one is just called Halloween.
I think it's really fun. You won't need to know too much. I think you'll meet some new characters that you didn't know from the pilot, obviously. Namely Seth Green, who plays a werewolf named Oz, who I love so much. And Spike, who is one of my all-time favorite TV characters. He's another vampire who's troubled and
of course
beautiful.
Of course,
and I love him very much.
And
but I think they're the
needs
only
saving.
Oh, and also there are a few, but they're the two, like, because you also meet Drusilla, who's crazy, and I love her as well. But Oz and Spike are the two who I'm excited for you to get to meet. And I think we're starting to get into, like, season 2 is not my favorite season. But I think the characters are much more established at this point. You get the dynamics of everybody kind of together a little better. So,
yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I watched a few more of Buffy after we watched the pilot. I think I only got through like 2 more episodes or something, but I enjoyed them. It just didn't stick with me. But
yeah, not like Dawson's Creek.
Not like Dawson's Creek. I watched another episode last night.
Through season 1 of Buffy, or even skip to season 2, you might have a little more interest in it, but you got to get through the creek before you.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
The season 4 episode is so good. I love it so much. But there's just a lot. I was kind of explaining to you off mic what we'd have to catch people up on.
And me.
And it's just a lot to get through. So we're going to stick with this early episode. It's also great. I think it's really fun.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and I am up to season 5, episode something or other. Let me check my Hulu.
Have you slowed down a little bit? No,
I have. School started. I know. It's taken over my life. Yeah, I'm about to start season 5, episode 20. So the last one I watched was the one where Jack goes all after school special and jumps off the roof into the pool, which I was like, oh no. As soon as I saw him on the roof, I was like, oh, here we go.
Here we go.
I've seen this one.
Yep.
Not literally, but I've seen it. And fucking Dawson. Oh my God. Driving to Florida.
I know.
They were supposed to be going to New York for a fucking meeting.
I know.
Like an important meeting. And he's like, no, I'm going to go chase this ridiculous soulmate idea that I can't fucking let go of.
I know. And I've done the drive to Florida. It
so
sucks.
Have I. I did it a lot as a kid. My dad didn't like flying, so we'd go visit my grandma in the car. We'd leave in the middle of the night and like drive 14 hours. Like terrible.
That sucks. Come on.
Terrible. Anyway, I really hope that the whole Pacey and Audrey thing ends soon. I love them both separately. I just am not into the whole thing.
You know how these shows do. Because
I know we've got
everybody together a little bit.
I know we've got to come back around to Pacey and Joey at some point, and so I just like I'm kind of over watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, you do. All right. That's going to do it for us for this week. I am findable on Instagram at Jodie_Mim, JODIE_MIM. And you can find us at WatchersPodNJ on Instagram and WatchersPodNJ@gmail.com. Email us your favorite go-to Halloween costume or your most creative Halloween costume.
Yeah,
give us some ideas. What's the weirdest one?
I love that. I'm at AQ Andrea Q. Would love to know your weirdest Halloween costume. I also want to add, and Jodie, I told you this off mic like 2 weeks ago, but we have the official date for the New Jersey, so I want to have gone up. For our listeners who are in the New Jersey area and who maybe listen to New Jersey is the World but not weekly, on Monday we announced our final New Jersey is the World live show. It's Saturday, November 23rd. It's very bittersweet. It will be at Smodcastle Cinemas.
Amazing.
It's Kevin Smith's theater.
Amazing.
And tickets are on sale, I think, today, officially. So if you're listening to this, it's going to sell out. So get your tickets. And it's going to, we've been tossing around ideas. I still don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it's going to be big and it's going to be fun. And
yeah, I'm going to do my best to get there. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm going to try.
Well, we'll let our listeners know if they'll be able to, if there'll be a Jodie Andrea meet and greet at the show as we get closer to the date.
Yeah,
so.
I will do my best.
I just wanted to give people a heads up there.
Yeah, that's fair.
If they do want to come down, like I said, you should get tickets right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bittersweet, but you and I will still be here every week.
I know.
So
we're not going anywhere.
You need your Jersey fix. You just keep hanging out.
We don't shut up about it, so
That's
you can
right.
come and hear us talk about Jersey.
Exactly, which you're already doing if you're listening to this. So
yes.
I just wanted to make that little announcement here.
Nice.
And I think that's everything.
Yeah. So where are we going to see them next week?
Sunnydale.
Back to Sunnydale.
That's right.
See you there.
Back to Cali. You know, like the song. Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.